It's that time of year again to share about books. Years ago, if you asked me to share and talk about books, I would have probably have said no, because I dreaded having to read a book. The only time you would really catch me reading a book was in order to get through a subject in school. In case you're new here, I'm Yuri, a dentist and homeschool mom to 5 kiddos. This is a collaboration hosted by Shauna from Homegrown Homeschool and Davene from Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. Make sure to check out these ladies' channels because they are pretty awesome. And every year, I like to share about our family read-alouds. I do have a video linked down below in the description box of our favorites and not so favorite read-alouds from last year. So if you'd like to check that out, it will be down below. Years ago, you couldn't pay me to share about books, but now I can't stop wanting to share about them. This is a collaboration, so make sure to check out the playlist if you haven't done so already. What better way to get recommendations than to be able to bounce ideas and thoughts off of each other? I can't wait to watch and get ideas myself. Many of the books that we have read so far this school year have sparked some really deep conversations within our family. And especially now that we have a couple of preteens, they've been asking some pretty deep questions. And some of the topics that we have talked about are racism, discrimination, mental health, learning disabilities, eternity, and much more. Let's jump right in. Our first read aloud this school year was E.B. White's The Trumpet of the Swan. We love E.B. White's books, like The Charlotte's Web, which we read at least 2 times. And this was our second time going through The Trumpet of the Swan together as a family. The Trumpet of the Swan is about a swan who is born without a voice, which is a big deal because trumpeter swans are prized for their voices. This classic not only teaches about accepting others for their differences, but also about not giving up on yourself. It also does a good job about introducing and sharing about the nature and biology of swans. So if you have a unit study coming up on birds, this book could be a great addition to go along with your unit study. There are many great elements addressed in this book, like the value of sacrifice, hard work, respect, and gratitude. And on a scale of 1 to 5, our family would give this book a 5. Okay, you want milk? Okay, let me get you milk. Sorry, my littlest wanted some milk, and I kind of forgot where I was at. So, what was I talking about? Okay, well, we give The Trumpet of the Swan, as a family, on a scale from 1 to 5, we would give it a 5-star. And we were wondering if there's a video or a movie based on this book. So we went on YouTube to find something. We found this little animated film on YouTube, but we were definitely not impressed. Oh, you back? That animated film did the book no justice. So in case you're just curious about the little film, or you just wanted to see what a movie version would look like, I would not waste the time. Next we read The Toothpaste Millionaire, written by Jean Merrill. And I was thrilled to read this book because I'm a dentist myself, and I'm so glad we found it. The kids wouldn't let me put it down, and honestly, I couldn't even put it down. One school morning, we spent the entire morning pretty much ditching our morning time, and we just read The Toothpaste Millionaire and almost finished it in that one morning. It's about a 6th grade African-American boy named Rufus, and he eventually starts a toothpaste business in Cleveland, Ohio, and as you can tell by the title, he becomes a millionaire by doing that. We learned so much about economics and entrepreneurship from this book. And we thought it was pretty cool that this book was set in the 1960s when segregation and racism were still pretty strong. So If you haven't guessed, we had some pretty good discussions about racism and segregation. And our family would give this book 5 stars. And we felt like, man, this is such a good book. There's got to be a movie on it. So we went to go see if there's a movie version of the book, but there wasn't anything there. But there really should be. But our kids and we just loved this book so much that the kids wanted us to read it again. So we ended up reading this book 2 times in a row. But the second time, my husband got to read it because the kids wanted him to experience the book also. So he got a chance to read it to the kids, and we got to enjoy this book 2 times in a row. Our next read was A Kind of a Spark by Ellie McNichol. Our 3rd grader found this book at the library and wanted to read it for herself, but she found that it was a little beyond her understanding. So she asked me to read it out loud to her. And I ended up reading the book out loud to the entire family. And it turned out to be a great book. In A Kind of Spark, we meet an 11-year-old girl named Addie who is neurodiverse, specifically with autism. And we found out that the author herself has autism, so it's kind of based on her life story and how she turned that pain into joy and celebration. As Addie faced discrimination, we addressed some big topics such as standing up for what you believe in, treating others fairly, bullying being possible even from adults, true friendship, being proud of who you are, even if that means being different from the norm, and also courage. I don't want to spoil it, but the book interweaves history and the present as Addie learns about the witch trials that happened centuries ago and takes it on a personal level. So there are many rich elements in this book. We would give this book 4 stars because it was a little bit harder to follow, but overall highly recommended. And again, we're kind of surprised that there's not a movie version of it yet. Next, we read Farmer Boy by Laura Ingalls Wilder. We read this one in order to continue in our Little House on the Prairie series that we started last year. So last year we read The Little House in the Big Woods. Oh, you're still here? You didn't go? I thought they all left for a basketball game, but I guess not. So, like I was saying, the next book that we read was Farmer Boy by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And it was just a continuation of the Little House on the Prairie series that we started last year with the Little House in the Big Woods. Little House in the Big Woods wasn't a big hit in our family last year, but Farmer Boy was a pretty good hit. And last year we felt like we have to try this series because everyone raves about the Little House on the Prairie series. We enjoyed sections of this book, like especially when the 4 Wilder kids had to stay home all by themselves for a whole week without their parents because the parents went on a vacation and they had to tend to all the things like the chores of churning the butter and tending to the crops and the livestock. Our kids really thought it was cool that the Wilder kids had to or decided to make ice cream and candy, which are things that we would never consider having to make, right? We just go to the grocery store and buy it. So our kids thought that was pretty cool. And the kids also thought it was pretty cool that the kids at that time in our pioneer days got to choose whether to go to school or not. Our kids didn't care too much about the Little House in the Big Woods, but they really enjoyed Farmer Boy because there was more of a plot and there was a lot going on. So the kids would probably give this book more like towards a 4 out of 5 stars. And I actually really enjoyed Farmer Boy. I really admire the simplicity of the Wilder family and the hard work that they had to go through and all the struggles that they endured at that time. I'm not sure if we're going to continue with the Little House on the Prairie series, but we did enjoy Farmer Boy. And I know there is a film on the whole series, but we haven't watched any of them yet, but hope to someday. Next is a book that our oldest begged me to read to everyone, and it's called Diaries Togo by Kate Klimo. This is a historical fiction because it's mostly true based on historical facts, but it's coming from the perspective of an, you wanna go out now? Okay, okay, I'll help you get out. See you later, alligator. So, like as I was saying, the Dog Diaries series is a historical fiction, so it's mostly true based on historical facts, but it's coming from the perspective of a Siberian Husky named Togo, who is from Alaska. And these series, there's more of the Dog Diaries, dogs in the Dog Diary series, and there are other books, like the Horse Diaries, which we haven't read yet. So if you like historical fiction, I mean, this was a hit with our kids. And they wouldn't let me put it down. So it's set in Alaska and New York City in the 1920s. Togo shares his experience running in the sweepstakes race, which is a 408-mile race to and from the Alaskan cities of Nome and Kendall. And he also shares about his experience with the serum run in order to get medicine to the children who are suffering from diphtheria. This book had the kids begging for more. And I don't want to give more of the story away, but the chapters in this book are a little bit on the longer side, but the kids were captivated. This was such a good book. And our kids will give it 5 out of 5 stars. We found a movie version of Togo on Disney Plus, but we weren't very impressed with it. The movie basically skipped the entire first beginning of the book, which really helps the lead up to the main plot of the story. And the movie was a little bit dry and on the quieter side, and we were kind of bored with the movie and we didn't get very far. Next up is A Single Shard by Linda Sue Park. This one had me in tears. And again, this is another book that our oldest had already went ahead and read, and she urged me to read it to the rest of the family. Oh, hello. And we love Linda Sue Park's books, especially her children's books like Bibimbap. And so I was pretty excited to get a chance to finally read. I will. And I was pretty excited to read one of her chapter books, finally. It's basically set in rural Korea about an orphan boy named Tree Ear, who goes by Tree Ear, who is about 10 years old or so and lives under a bridge under the guardianship of an old crippled man. So Tree Ear and the old man pretty much need each other for daily survival. And through it all, Tree Ear learns about hard work, perseverance, loyalty, family, and about enduring hunger. Tree Ear becomes very fascinated by the work of the porcelain potters in his village, and he ends up working for a grumpy and very perfectionistic potter in his village. And the ending will surprise you. This book was so phenomenal. I'm definitely going to read more of Linda Sue Park's chapter novels. And we give it a 5 out of 5, even though the chapters were pretty lengthy, but we couldn't put it down. And so this is another book that really needs to be turned into a movie, if it hasn't already been, but I couldn't find anything. So. Next I have A Little Pilgrim's Progress, and this version is by Helen L. Taylor. And this version was really great. I don't know what the other Little Pilgrim's Progress versions are like, but this one we really enjoyed. And I went with the Little Pilgrim's Progress instead of the original John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress because I hear that the original text in John Bunyan's work is kind of hard to read because of the Old English. And also there is some mature content in the original version that maybe, I'm not sure, maybe some of my kids aren't ready for. And the story of the Little Pilgrim's Progress is a little different from the actual Pilgrim's Progress. After learning more about Pilgrim's Progress and doing some research about it, I found that the main character, Christian, is actually married to another character who's called Christiana in the Pilgrim's Progress. But in the Little Pilgrim's Progress, Christian and Christiana are just really good friends. But you can also see, or you can also feel that there is a little bit of a love interest going on. Anyway, my kids couldn't get enough of this book. And it's basically about Christian who is on his journey to get to heaven. And he stumbles upon a lot of roadblocks on the way. The chapters leave you with cliffhangers, and they're really short. So the chapters could be maybe about 2 to 3 pages. So it's a very quick and easy read. And so our kids would easily ask us to read another chapter, please, please, please. You know, especially if you're left with a cliffhanger, it's just kind of hard to stop. I hope I didn't give away too much of the book. Sorry for the spoiler alert. And there are no maps in this version of the book, although there are pictures. So you have some pictures once in a while throughout the book. But we went through the Torchlighter's Ultimate Activity book, and we learned about John Bunyan. And that kind of is what led us to want to read John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. So after doing that missionary study on John Bunyan, we read the Pilgrim's Progress, but there's also this really amazing map in this activity book. So that was kind of fun to refer back to as we read the Little Pilgrim's Progress. The ending of the book was actually a little bit disappointing because it didn't end how we wanted it to end and how we expected it to end, although we usually like it when we find unexpected endings. But it was pretty endearing to see our kids have empathy and compassion for the characters in this book. And there are actually at least 2 non-animated versions of films for this book. And there's one animated movie. And we watched the animated version and it is amazing. Although the movie pretty much left off after Christian reaches the celestial city and what happens after that. So I don't want to give it away. So it's just so hard not to. But the animated version doesn't give you the entire book's point of view. I did skim through one of the non-animated versions of the movies, and I mean, it was really good, but of course, like most movies, it had some differences. The last read aloud we got through this school year was Fish in a Tree by Linda Mullally Hunt. And it's about another girl named Allie. We met an Allie in A Kind of Spark. And she discovers that she has dyslexia. We have a child who struggles with reading, and this book was very encouraging in that your potential doesn't lie in the way that you perform in school. And initially, the kids weren't begging for more. And they say that it's because there aren't cliffhangers like we found in a Toothpaste Millionaire and A Little Pilgrim's Progress. But the more we got to hear Allie's story, the more we wanted to hear and know about her. Fish in a Tree is a must read, and it addresses topics like learning disabilities, bullying, perseverance, courage, self-worth, friendship, and how someone, especially a teacher, can influence your life. We give this book 5 out of 5 stars, and it sparked a lot of interesting conversations that involved learning disabilities, bullying, and never giving up. I couldn't find any movie versions of Fish in a Tree, but I am foreseeing a really good movie in the making. Actually, I'm foreseeing a lot of good movies in the making amongst the books that we've read this year so far. Have you read any of these books that I've covered today? Like The Trumpeter Swan, Toothpaste Millionaire, Farmer Boy, A Kind of Spark, Dog Diaries Togo, A Single Shard, A Little Pilgrim's Progress, or Fish in a Tree? And what are your family's favorite read-alouds? And do they spark conversations? I hope this video was helpful for y'all in discovering some worthwhile read-alouds. And don't forget to check out the playlist. And thank you, Shauna and Davene, for hosting another great collaboration. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's totally free, but it helps our family out so much. Have a great day and have fun reading out loud. What is it? Out. Oh, you want to go out? Okay. All right. Are you helping Dad? Okay, that's better. From Alaska. Are you back already? Pretend I didn't see you. Okay. Okay, so I'll just continue. Okay. It sparked a lot. I'm so loud up there. My kids are super loud. I'm so sorry.